The Blue Bloods are good. Goodman, are you surprised by that? Are that North Carolina, that Kansas, and that Kentucky are all top 10 teams, top 5, depending on where you look?
It's so hard, Rob, to really determine how good any of these teams are yet.
Well, I wanted to ask you. So, Kentucky, without Oscar Tshiebwe, taking on Howard, completely overmatched. They win by 32 points.
Without Severe Wheeler, without Damian Collins.
Yeah, without like some really Severe Wheeler might have been an addition by subtraction. But
hey.
I mean, Field of 68 podcast host CJ Frederick led the team in scoring. How about that?
Came out firing, so did Reeves.
Yeah. How upset do you think T.O. and Randolph Childress are that like they're nowhere near the best shooters on the Field of 68 anymore? I think that hurts them in their soul just a little bit.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, they're not going to be happy about this, are they?
No, they are not going to be happy about this. So
Kentucky, listen, here's the thing. I watched a bunch of Kentucky, and here's what I'll say is like, I was kind of worried about them going into the year because of their spacing more than anything, and thinking about it and saying to myself, all right, like Oscar's got to be in the court. I know I've heard the reports that he's stepping out and shooting a little bit better, but he is what he is. He's going to be down there on the block. And Jacob Toppin, I've heard the same thing, but, I'll believe it when I see it, right? Severe Wheeler, kind of a non-shooter at the point. Well, if those three are going to play, all right, that means one of Reeves or Frederick plays. You're not playing them both. And, to me, again, how do you figure this team out? Are there enough shooters is basically what I'm getting at. I think there are. Toppin looked like he's gotten better. Frederick and Reeves can play together at times. And I love Cason Wallace. I freaking love that.
I was just about to say, look, if you're worried about Severe Wheeler shooting, well, this kid just had 15, 8, and 9 dimes as the starting point guard. Cason Wallace did. So we talk about the freshman performances, like that's right up there with Grady Dick in terms of the best that you're going to see tonight. Yes. And look, to me,
almost said a triple.
He's the guy. Yeah, to me, he's the guy that is like kind of the difference maker there, because if he's out there and like, look, I make jokes. All due respect to Severe Wallace, he led the SEC in assists last year. He averaged 14 and 7 on a bad Georgia team. Like that dude's a player. I think it's more just like when he's out there with Oscar Tshiebwe, the way that you can match up with Kentucky, it makes them a little bit more beatable. Whereas I think if you put Cason Wallace out there, all of a sudden,
he's not a great shooter either, by the way. Wallace is not a proven shooter, but I think he'll get better.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit different where
they go under every ball screen with Wheeler. They're not going to do that yet with Wallace.
Yes, and he's bigger, and if he gets in the lane, like he's going to be someone that can like finish over stuff. I think he's a little bit more of a dog that lets you be a little bit more switchable different.
It actually works, Rob. It works because they're different. So like,
here's what I was going to say is like all of a sudden you have Wallace at the 1, you could play Toppin and Livingston together, and you put anybody else at the 2, whether it's CJ Frederick, whether it's the Reeves kid, whether it's Adu Thero, I don't know, Adu Thero, however you pronounce his last name.
I don't think he's going to play.
But what I'm saying is all of a sudden you have a team that is basically like 1 through 4 switchable.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And I don't know if we've seen that at Kentucky in a while. So I love what I saw from Cason Wallace. And I do think I'll be very curious to see how that role kind of plays out moving forward. You mentioned Grady Dick. You know what made me so happy?
Go ahead.
I saw the tweet. It came through. CJ Moore put it out there. Kansas started KJ Adams at the 5, Jalen Wilson at the 4, Grady Dick at the 3, Kevin McCullough at the 2, DeJuan Harris at the 1. We got the full small ball lineup. We got the full small ball lineup from Bill Self. I was so happy
only because Norm Roberts was coaching, so he probably said, "The hell with it, I'm doing this."
Yes, I love
it. Bill can't tell me what to do. I'm going small, like old St. John's days or something. But it's their best lineup right now. It's their best lineup because they don't have a proven big. The bigs aren't good enough yet, and they're hoping maybe they eventually get there. But they're not. The freshman isn't. He's kind of more of a rim running defender.
Ernest Ude. Like they don't have Bill Self loves those guys where you can scheme stuff for them, where they just kind of turn and seal and lay the ball over their shoulder, and you just scheme layups, right? David McCormick was great at it. Udoka Azubuike was probably the best that we've seen Bill Self have at it. You think of guys like Landon Lucas, Field of 68 podcast host. You think of guys like Cole Aldrich, right? Guys that can just turn, seal, put their ass into someone, catch the ball late in. And they don't, like, none of the bigs that they have can do that. And I think that this team, Bill mentioned this to me when we talked for the Almanac, that it's basically what he ran at the start of the 2020-21 season, right? Do you remember that they started the season out really hot? They beat Kentucky in the Champions Classic where there was nobody there. They played Jalen Wilson a lot at the 5 with those lineups. Now, I don't think you're going to play him at the 5 with these lineups. I think you put KJ Adams there, but he's done it before, and he's shown the willingness to play small ball. And to me, like that could get exciting right there, especially like Jalen Wilson had 19, 11, and 7 assists. Grady Dick had 23 tonight. So that
Juan Harris was good.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, Nebraska Omaha is not.
They're not good. They're not good.
They're not great.
Most of these teams tonight, and again, we say that, like, we'll get to probably Indiana a little bit. They beat Morehead State. They're picked to win their league, but they're a completely different team this year than they were a year ago. Mm-hmm. So Indiana had that advantage over Preston Spradlin's team. So
they're also picked to win the league because the Ohio Valley lost Belmont and Murray State, and it's
exactly
horrible.
Right.
Horrible.
Right. So, to me, again, you got to take a lot of these games with a grain of salt. You beat who you're supposed to beat, and there's something to be said for that. That's important right now. However, it's going to step up at some point. Every team, most of these teams have, they'll probably have anywhere from 4 bye games to 6 bye games, out of their. Most of them have like 11 or 13 total non-conference games. So, it'll start to ramp up. I understand they want to start slow. It's just, again, you look through it and you're like, couldn't we have gotten one that everybody wanted to watch? Mm-hmm. That everybody was watching the same game and just saying, like, I have to have one screen on this.
What we missed coming into this game, or coming into this night. I didn't even realize it. I didn't even put it together. We missed the Florida Gulf Coast revenge game.
Yeah, no, USC just lost.
Yeah, USC just lost. USC and Andy Enfield just lost to Florida Gulf Coast and Dunk City, 74-61 in their own building. You talked about not getting upsets. There you go, Jeff. There's your upset, baby. There's your upset. All right, there's one more game that I want to talk about. Real quick, North Carolina struggled a little bit with Wilmington. We've seen them have issues with distractions before and look unimpressive. I'm not terribly concerned about that because they only allowed 56 points. And when we question North Carolina, what do we question? Whether or not they're going to play defense. I'm just a little bit concerned. We saw they had 6 points off their bench tonight.
That's it. Wow.
Yeah, 6 points off the bench. So if you can't get any kind of bench production playing against UNC Wilmington, not only that, they had 6 points off the bench, and Pete Nance took 3 shots from the floor. So if you're not going to,
baffling to me, that baffled. I mean, to me, again, if I'm RJ Davis, if I'm Caleb Love, if I'm Armando Bacot, the most important thing for me is to make sure Pete Nance is happy right now and to make sure he fits in, because they already got to the national title game last year. They're playing for a national title this year. Anything less than that is probably disappointing for those 3 guys, especially. So to me, it's all about Pete Nance right now. Can he be not Brady Manick, but can he be a guy that, again, you're going to make sure you acclimate, get him in, get him feeling good, and get him to be productive right out of the gates?
I love that. This is where we end up. This is what college basketball is. This is what the Field of 68 After Dark is, where we say Pete Nance, not RJ Davis, not Caleb Love, not Armando Bacot, not the 3 All-Americans. The guy that transferred in from Northwestern is the piece that makes it all work for the team that made the national title last season, the preseason number 1 team in the country. I love it. And you know what? I don't even think you're wrong. I don't even think that you're wrong. No, but that just kind of stood out was their lack of depth.